Why are you starting it like this?
Oh my, you told me to.
Like. Listen. We were told that potentially Israeli intelligence service has access to the software that we use to record. And I'm like, dude, like right before we start recording, I always have my mask off. But then I remembered, why would the Zionists want to show my face? It's like exceptionally handsome and beautiful and
it would
inspiring.
Destroy the propaganda.
It would inspire more people to listen to me. So I was like, okay, I should show it more often so that we properly test if they have full access. JT's wearing a chain right now, and
he looks so fucking good,
freaking me the fuck out because
he
works
looks so good.
well.
Do you like that?
Yeah, I do.
I like it.
God, I want to twirl your hairs again. You know how much I would perv on this man's curls.
You call me twirl. Let me do a little boing boing.
Exactly right. That fucking interracial cream does wonders.
Look, if it's good enough for Zendaya, it's good enough for me.
Yeah. Viewers need to understand a very specific thing. Like, we literally only talk verbally once a week when we record this beautiful show for you. But you get to hear us once a week as well. And there is, I think, a cognitive dissonance that happens there, because in their minds, Yugopnik, JT, and Hakeem are always talking about a Volvo, curls, fucking each other up the ass. And doctor shit.
Far
right?
away from.
But it's because we haven't talked to each other for a week that we catch up on the things that we actually care about. So yes, you would indirectly be right. And speaking about the things that one cares about, have you guys ever dreamt? Have you even thought that it could be a viable reality for you to have enough money to pay a guy to launch you into space? Basically, I'm asking you guys, did you ever think you could be Katy Perry?
What the fuck? What? Well,
I didn't know this was a thing until this morning because I deleted Twitter off my phone.
Oh, please tell me.
Katy Perry went to space.
Because this morning they went up.
Oh, really?
Who's
Funnily
enough, this is a news episode. I have not been keeping up with the news. I'll tell you what.
I have not even heard this. Why is she in space?
Who's Katy Perry?
So Katy Perry is a woman that is very well endowed. Oh wait, no, different podcast. So you know the Bezos,
she's a musician.
The Amazon Bezos thing. They make enough money, and they have a side project where they want to basically create a tourism
in space.
experience for extremely wealthy people. They want to see the planet from the stratosphere, etc., etc.
50 birds, one stone. That's all I'm saying.
And obviously, like the cliche communist thing to say right now that it's like, oh my God, yeah, billionaires wasting money, completely annihilating the environment in order to go up in space, look at the planet, and then post about how they really love the planet while actively destroying it. And on top of that, using the infrastructure of, Amazon, who is one of the world's greatest polluters, blah, 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 communist commentary, very good. No, I want to do basic bitch commentary. Motherfucker, you go into space. You get to see the fucking planet. You get to see the moon. You get to see the sun from a perspective that 99.9999999% of humans throughout history never got to see. Guys, because you haven't watched the coverage. They spend 95% of their time up there making content for Instagram.
Why?
Doing 360s, like showing different brands or different like national flags, posing and shit.
They had to bring the shit up with them.
Yeah, of course. Bug paste. Yeah.
Isn't it like $50,000 a kilo or something to go?
Insane.
Probably even more probably. But like the human mind is so
does not comprehend this level of consumerism.
Right, I know it's cliche, but come the fuck on. You get to like unironically, like if there's one sort of experience that we can like objectively aspire to, none of Marxists, we don't object.
Blah blah blah. Whitey's on the moon.
Blah, blah, yes. Still, MLs in the walls this time.
Yeah.
But like, if there is one thing that is so rare that just simply because of its rarity, it has value, which is the experience of exiting, looking at the planet from the so beautiful, right? And you cannot really even like fully enjoy it. You gotta make posts about it. You gotta like post for you gotta get likes. They were like, I am seeing the entire planet. How can I use this to get clout? What the fuck are we doing? At
I
this
have a
point,
couple of
man?
questions.
Just wait for them to put the ads in the sky, and in the
Right?
future when it
The
becomes
night sky.
what's it called?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Drink
you'll be-
Coca-Cola before
Right?
bed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And when human tourism into space will happen, if it ever does happen, who knows if that's even something we should be trying to do at this point. There will be ads, space ads. There's going to be massive,
100%.
beautiful, what's it called? I don't know, drink Coke, got milk.
Beppis.
Fucking,
Yeah.
You're going to say something, JT.
I was going to ask, did Katy Perry propose this, or was she selected because they were so content brained that they were like, if she lives and nothing goes wrong, this is great. We've got all these advertisements with Katy Perry in space. But if she dies, we're also good because we can just make a bunch of edits playing firework as her rocket blows up.
Oh,
like,
wow.
was it that kind of thing?
I thought you were trying to point at her being like kind of washed up as a like she's no longer that popular, so it might be okay. Right?
No, I'm
still
just
being,
thinking about
but,
the edits we would have gotten if it.
Oh, it would have
my
been
God.
fucking. It would have been edgy. No, like
Look,
so three things. So number one, sorry, three things like this. This is how you show three, not three. Two video watchers. Okay. Numero uno. Ja bih u pičku, bre. This is
I'm
three.
doing the Inglorious Bastards thing.
we
Go
are-
on.
Yeah. No. Balkan people watching this right now, you know exactly what we're doing. Ignore that for the rest of you. So, number one, she made this whole thing about, guess what? Female empowerment. Oh my God, I'm going to kill myself that I even said this.
Bruh.
Yes, I want to actively take my life with a spoon.
More women billionaire space tourists.
Yes, that's number one. And number two, ironically, I think the only reason she was up there, and this is like, don't quote me on this. This is just like my conspiracy theory.
Okay.
This was the first time that Jeff Bezos's wife got to go up there. And then they were probably sitting and they were like, okay, like you go up there, but just by yourself, that's kind of cringe. Let's make you go up there with other people. But then obviously because of billionaire elitism, they were like, but who could you go up there with? Let's like pay tickets for very, very famous people to go up there and basically take photos with you. You know, what's the word? Brown. What was the
Chris
name
Brown?
of the fucking incestued girlfriend of Adolf Hitler?
Eva Brown.
Eva Braun. So they were like, let's pay enough people money and they'll go up with Eva Braun into space to take some fucking videos and photos with her. And those guys were like, fuck yeah, I get to see space. I mean, fuck this shit. Let's fucking go. Which self-criticism. Anybody listening to this, ask yourself, just ask yourself. So yes, of course, just the flight up and back causes enough pollution. Causes the same amount of pollution as a whole lifespan of an average human being. So a lot of pollution.
Really?
But somebody hits you up. And it's like, yeah, bro.
Dude, I don't.
Space. You wanna see space?
I don't go up in fucking in you know when the carny people come around and then they set up the fucking their stupid amusement parks. I don't chance it on these things.
Neither.
Yeah.
But because you don't get to see space.
You know what I mean?
Hakeem
go
is
up and you
constantly
see
plagued
nothing.
by
You just
roving
see the
bands of
fucking-
carnival jesters.
I will not. I need to tell you about a story about the final year of med school where I had this. They would set up every fucking summer, but in the final year of med school, they're so obnoxious. They would set up right outside of the.
But before you
apartment building where
continue,
I
you would
lived.
not go. No, I'm going to be obnoxious about it.
Huh.
You're not going to space. Like
No.
30% of why I'm a communist is
I
because
will
that
ask
would be
the
the
Lord
only thing
when
that would
it's
allow
time,
society
all
to
right?
develop fast enough
I don't
for
need
us to
this
go
in
into
my
space.
life. I don't need this.
It's space.
Hakeem is not ready to slip the surly bonds of earth and touch the face of God.
Yeah, no, this is not. Fuck this. My God. I was gonna say at the end of my med school.
This is the program split. I swear to fucking God. Space, bro.
Listen, they would set up this fucking stupid amusement park and they would hook up these ridiculous speakers that would play 24/7 music, and they would be like this fake DJ, like it's supposed to be like a DJ, but it's just set on a loop. So it just says like attention, 1, 2, 3, go.
Yeah.
And it has
Classic.
a big fucking yellow flag at the top, and I was just far enough away. So if you look at out of your periphery vision, it looks like a Hezbollah flag. I'm like, these motherfuckers just stop. Oh my God, I
1,
love
2,
it.
3, go rockets.
I wish at least then I would be able to be like, you know what? Okay, yes, go.
Yeah.
Before we even got to this, by the way, we were talking. Me and JT were talking race science with
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 fruits.
berries.
Like we always do, of course.
Please share, JT. Share your knowledge with the people.
All right, check it out. So we were talking about I've been eating a lot of berries, raspberries, blackberries, etc. Hakeem comes in saying that the top tier berry is a cherry. I'm like, I don't. Is a cherry a berry? So naturally, we go to Google. I search, is a cherry a berry? And it says no. A cherry is actually a stone fruit. In fact, it is a drupe.
Better known as a droop.
A drupe. It will never be a real berry. You fucking drupe.
Like your two
Which sounds a lot
testicles.
like a slur.
Like your two testicles, you always have a favorite, and then you
Hakeem
have
made the
truth.
same joke.
What?
Yeah,
brother.
I told him I got a droop for you, and then afterwards he mentioned about other fruits having more than one seed.
More seeds, yeah.
If it's a berry, and I was like, well, I got plenty of seed as well, so I don't know what. To...
Welcome to the Deprogram, everybody.
All right, this is a perfect
go.
solid 10 minutes.
No. Before it starts playing, Hakeem. So, does it balance out? If I have a lot of sperm and I jizz into JT, does he get pregnant at the same rate as if I have a smaller number of sperm, but they're stronger and tougher?
I guess we're just gonna have to try it out.
Welcome, everybody, to yet another episode of the Deprogram. Today, we have something very special for you that you have not seen in, I believe, a couple of months. Some people have hit us up and said, oh no, we missed the most original show that ever existed. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, the original one where you talk about the news.
What is this accent?
You read it out.
I've been trying to
and you
figure it out.
say, oh my God, look at this news. So yes, welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, and NBs, to yet another episode of the Deprogram. Send Nudes, episode 784. The year is 2185, and we have sent the 7,000th Katy Perry clone into the sky. It is time to cover the news with my dear friends JT and Hakeem. Before we do start that, this is an exclusive Patreon episode, so we would just like to say thank you very much for supporting the show and allowing us to do what we do and staying as independent as possible. So I'll immediately take you to, well, the most cliche story that you probably expected to hear today. We can't start the conversation without addressing the massive schizophrenic orange elephant in the room.
I mean, we could.
But we choose not to because we're very petty.
Because we're podcasters. Let's go.
Let's go. Arguably, we should have avoided this story because it's cliche and every single other podcast has covered it. But I don't think a single one of them will cover it or has covered it in this, let's say, compartmentalized manner in which we will try. So, yeah, we're talking about the trade war, the tariff war, U.S. suicide speed run, whatever you prefer to call it. Now, I know your head is beyond inflated by all the hot takes on this topic, so I won't bother you with overdone or overcooked analysis. So, straight to the point, there's three things, in my opinion, you need to know and understand about the tariff war, at least the way it's gone for now. In scientific Marxian fashion, I will now list them out because we love lists. Number one, U.S. tariffs on developing economies are pure cut and dry imperialism. Number two, Trump is a fucking pussy. Number three, the domestic pitch to American workers is just propaganda, and only social chauvinist dogs are falling for it. So, well, let me fucking sneeze.
Bless you.
Yeah, but I was keeping that in for a very long time. So, numero uno. Tariffs as an imperial tool in this particular context. It's simply the world's largest economy trying to use its massive financial leverage to force other state actors, from what was traditionally defined as allies to neutral states, and most importantly, those slowly doing a pivot to China, to make concessions to empire. As most of you should know, imperialism is not only exuded through boots on the ground and planes overhead. While military might, perceived or real, is the most direct way of telling the world who's boss, other, softer, but sometimes equally as violent methods can play much of the same role without having to deal with domestic fallout that military interventions carry. Tariffs, as used by the Americans in this context, are exactly that: a financial gun placed against the temple of every single state actor's head, where American capital, in the form of outsourced jobs, massive American consumer imports, and financial loans, is weaponized as a way to force foreign states to give up as much of their sovereignty as possible in return for financial stability. To simplify as much as possible, let's say 20% of country A's exports go to the US. 25% of country A's labor is employed by US companies. This is already great for the US up until they get what? Up until they get greedy, as they just did. So, you, as the US, enact foreign policy, in this case, enough tariffs that would absolutely crush those two segments of country A's economy: exports and employment. You basically tell them, I will bankrupt the living shit out of you unless you give me even more concessions. It doesn't matter that you already moved mountains in order to create a welcome environment for American capital to flourish in your country. They want more. So you get two choices, and that, in my modest analysis, which plenty of left, adjacent economists strongly agree with, was the whole gamble. Two things can happen. You go and you grovel in the White House. Maybe you throw in a US base. Maybe you lower your profit margins at the benefit of American corporations that operate domestically. Or maybe, and this is key, you start cutting ties with America's principal imperial enemy, the PRC, in return for some tariff alleviation. It's the full weaponization of America's capital power as a means to extract as much out of every inch of the world as possible in an attempt to slow down its own decline. But why are we calling it a gamble? Because the world's reaction can go in a very different direction, one that we as anti imperialists should, of course, cheer for. And that is country A, but also B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on, choosing to, even at the cost of short term economic decline, pursue internationalization of diplomacy, trade, and alliance building, realizing that the US is not only not a reliable partner, but a country that will, in the long term, continue to violently overexert itself in this fashion. You might, of course, start looking at very legitimate alternatives. And these might come in the form of multiple BRICS countries, especially China. This would be the opposite effect of what the tariffs intended, pushing states to develop stronger economic relations with fellow developing countries, neighbors, and far more dignified, keyword dignified relationships with larger non US aligned trade partners. That is the big gamble. So, TLDR, the current foreign tariffs have undertaken at its still very impactful 10%, or massive upgrade in case you return to the pre 90-day pause levels, should be seen as nothing more than a targeted attack on the international community as a means to extract as much influence as possible under a very real mob like threat. Obviously, here we can talk intentional dollar devaluation, the role crypto plays as an offload ramp, or the Chinese reaction. But those are details I leave to the niche experts. What needs to solidify in your beautiful deprogrammed brains, I said the word, is everything I said before. Because unfortunately, violent financial methods like this one are often used by empires in decline as a final step before more traditional methods of dealing with imperial competition come out of the shadows. And we called that one war. Now the much faster number two. Trump is a fucking pussy. That's
the scientific term. Yes.
That's the argument, thesis, and analysis. Look, Mom, my imperial enemy. This is what he looks like. I guess we're very cooked. And number three, how it's sold to domestic Americans, the domestic American voting body, as a means to get production jobs back. I see a lot of people doing like deep analysis of this, but with all due respect, this is simplistic domestic propaganda used to justify an aggressive foreign policy push. This is your new, we are spreading democracy, okay? This is not how the real world works. And if you want more details, check out a very nice YouTube channel we are running together called First Thought that talked about it in detail before this thing even started, many months before it even started. But hey, I might be wrong, and the new enlightened era of American sock production might be right behind the hill. Rejoice, labor aristocracy, you're officially dead.
Lamau, yeah, one easy example with the China stuff. All right, check it out. If I import a computer, or if I import the parts for a computer today, I get slapped with big additional costs because of the tariffs. If, however, I buy a whole computer from abroad, that is exempt. Yeah, so that's definitely gonna reshore our manufacturing jobs. You stupid people. Whatever. Yeah. True. Okay, so moving on to even more depressing stuff. I'm gonna call this story Peanuts Law, and I'll tell you why. The state of New York just drafted a new bill named after Peanut the Squirrel. Now, Peanut the Squirrel was an Instagram famous rodent who had hundreds of thousands of followers. Long story short, the feds got word that Peanut and an unnamed raccoon were being kept illegally. They raided the guy's place. Peanut bit one of the agents. Critical support for Comrade Peanut. And then he was euthanized and posthumously tested for rabies, as was the non-famous raccoon. The deaths of these animals...
They euthanized the agent? Fuck yeah.
Yeah, they took him behind the barn. They brought out the tiny executioner and lopped the head off of poor Peanut and the raccoon, which it seems a little racist that the raccoon didn't have a name or an Instagram following, but whatever. But the deaths of these animals, Peanut in particular, again, animal racism, caused an uproar, and it sparked a debate about animal rights. So this new law would require a 72-hour waiting period before animals from sanctuaries are euthanized. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me just put this plainly. White people will give due process to a squirrel before they'll do the same for immigrants. Like, I'm sure most of you have been following the news about Trump's draconian arrests and deportations. If you haven't, the short version is that they're cracking down on anyone who speaks critically about the genocidal Israeli apartheid regime. And since it's a little bit harder to black bag American citizens, at least at the moment.
Yeah, exactly right. Just give it a moment.
Yeah, for now, there's an asterisk there, yeah. They're starting with the exchange students, the visa holders, the naturalized citizens. Basically, anyone with an asterisk next to their residence status. Deportation.
But don't they know that the animals as well are pro-Palestinian?
Yeah, they're gonna. That's why they purged.
That's why the
Comrade
bees
Peanut.
keep attacking the birds and shit. Keep attacking.
That's so. I do love
That's
that
why
stuff.
olive trees don't want to grow in Israel and shit.
That rocks. Yeah. So basically, deportations are one of those things that we're all aware of them, but kind of like in a detached sort of way. But I'm willing to bet that this time, all of us, or at least most of us, know someone who's been affected or is friends with someone who's at risk. One of my friends, for example, is the only U.S. citizen in his graduate program, and he just saw 27 students have their visas revoked. That's
Jesus Christ.
That's scary. Like that's scary. That's insane for a school that has never had anything like this before, and like any number to have 27 like that. That's nuts. So let me give you.
That's after. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you.
No, please.
That's after they spent a lot of money on year 1, year 2, year 3, etc., etc.
Yoink.
As someone who studied abroad, not in my home country, that is literally a pure nightmare. Like you're barely like, you know, loans for
Mhm.
some people, high payments for some people, like working all summer for some people, depends
Mhm. Mhm.
obviously on privilege levels and so on. Like, you're giving your everything in order to get this degree. And the worst thing, like, as freshman year passes, sophomore year passes, and especially your junior year, or God forbid senior year,
Hmm.
there's unironically nothing worse that can go through a student's mind as something that could happen that could completely annihilate their life, like
Mhm.
completely make the previous 2 to 3 years of their life like completely wasted, like having been in prison in a fucking dungeon. And they know just how much damage they're doing.
Oh
And
yeah.
especially from what I've read in a lot of universities where they do the damage, like, you cannot take the courses. I'm being as pragmatic as possible, as like amoral as possible, right? I'm being like super, just pure pragmatism. A lot of these people, unfortunately, will, even if they are released from prison and then sent back home, a lot of them will not be able to finish or graduate.
Mhm.
So they will lose all the money that they spent on the university. They will lose all the credits. Maybe they can transfer some of the credits, but then, the US will have shared their profile with a bunch of other Western countries, etc., etc. Basically, the most fucked over you can get as a college student at 20. That's what they're doing to these people. Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing worse that I can imagine except getting a bullet in my fucking head.
Yeah, toe the line or we will destroy you and your future. It's
Yeah.
incredibly severe. But let me give you some statistics on this. As of April 14th, over 180 colleges and universities have identified over 1,000 international students and recent graduates who have had their legal status changed by the State Department. That is a 5-fold increase from just a week before. And that's just students, right? Like, this is not counting all the countless people in the United States who have had their status changed, who are, not on a college campus. College campuses are obviously the target because, they always are. But you can keep up to date with the numbers yourself if you're interested. There's a website called Inside Higher Ed. They've got a live tracker that is updated twice a day, I believe. All right, so, whatever. The fascists are doing fascist things, no surprise. But what is their reasoning here? How are they selling this to the chuds and to the terrified suburban wine moms, right? It's not hard to guess, right? Mostly it's the same tired, dangerous other rhetoric we've seen with every other vaguely fascist regime. Back on March 27th, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Little Marco, said that the State Department had revoked 300 or more student visas, claiming that these students were, quote, lunatics. Rubio claims students sought entrance into the U.S., quote, not just to study, but to participate in movements that vandalize universities, harass students, take over buildings, and cause chaos. So, pretty much what they're talking about here, without explicitly saying it, is pro-Palestine protests.
Yeah.
If a person on a visa does the morally correct thing and participates in a march for Gaza, or criticizes the U.S.-backed genocide on Twitter, or hands out Palestinian flag stickers, or is even, falsely reported by Zionists, they will have their visa revoked and the deportation process will likely begin. What makes this worse, though, is that most university officials say they are unsure of why many foreign-born students had their legal residency status terminated, or they've yet to receive formal notification of the changes. A majority of them have yet to receive any communications from immigration authorities. This is a
They
terror
won't get
campaign.
shit. Yeah, that's the point. Yeah.
That is just, you're just trying to spook people. Plain and simple. You see your status change, you don't hear anything from anybody, and then on the news you see people literally getting shoved into unmarked vans for the crime of criticizing arguably the most evil little colonial outpost in history. But probably the most high-profile example of this right now is the case of Mahmoud Khalil. Mahmoud was one of the many Palestinian activists at Columbia University, which has kind of become the focal point of the pro-Palestine movement among U.S. students. He's also married to a U.S. citizen, with a U.S. citizen baby on the way, on a path to citizenship himself, and an immigration judge just ruled that he can be deported, thus opening the door for more and more people, including citizens, to be deported. And what was Mahmoud's crime? Nothing. Even the State Department admits he has done nothing illegal.
He expressed his mind. That's not allowed in the United States.
Exactly right. That is exactly it. And the only reason he's currently facing separation from his family is because all legitimate criticism of Israel is considered, quote, anti-Semitic, which is, of course, itself anti-Semitic, as we and many others have repeatedly pointed out. So if we want to get all, Jar Jar well, literally 1984 about it, Mahmoud Khalil and over 1,000 students and counting, just like him, are being accused of thought crime. Even the State Department themselves are saying as much. This little 2-page memo from Marco Rubio's office said that while his actions are, quote, otherwise legal, he should still be deported for, quote, get ready for this, beliefs that undermine core American interests.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep, there you go.
It doesn't get much clearer than that, does it? Like, if you do anything, if you so much as think anything that goes against the U.S. empire's MO of world domination and accelerating descent into barbarism, you are an enemy of the state and you will be dealt with. It's literally the stupid overdone poem, right? First they came for the foreign students and I said nothing because I was not a foreign student.
Yeah.
It won't be long until American citizens are next on the chopping block, all right? And in fact, they're getting pretty close. Just the other day, or was it was either today or yesterday at time of recording, so it'll be a little later for you guys. ICE just snatched a guy called Mohsen Madawi, a Palestinian Columbia student, from his literal citizenship appointment, a legal permanent resident, holding a U.S. green card. Minutes later, he would have been a citizen. It does not get any closer than that to deporting citizens. So there's your update on the student arrests and deportations. It's getting pretty extreme.
Love it.
We love reporting on this here at the Deprogram. It's great. And this story kind of coincides with the El Salvador thing, which I'll get to in a bit. But I'm gonna give our little piggies a break for a bit and let one of you boys take the next story.
All right. I'm going to cover this very thoroughly beaten horse. That is the U.S.-Iran nuclear deal talks, which happen every fucking 2 weeks at this rate.
But don't they have an update? Doesn't the Ayatollah love Trump? Yes! Because that's being covered that way in particular news sources that we are very big fans of, that we wish a lot of happiness and a long life to. I want you to have many years itched on a wall in a room. No, not yet. Sorry, yes.
Right. So generally what happens is this. Iran has had a nuclear program. According to what they claim and what they say, it is for just...
Did you just say Iran? Iran.
But Iran is... That's how
I know it's the proper one, but I just got...
Iran's nuclear program.
For all fucking OGs here on the channel, I am channeling the perfume, white shirt, white Mercedes. Iran, how many perfumes you want to buy, my friend? Okay, now I'm going to get fucking flagged for racism. But holy shit, I forgot that character. We used to do that character almost on a regular.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the typical... Dude, I wish I could do the Farsi accent in Arabic. A relative of mine does it very well, and it's fucking hilarious. I don't know why. Is that racist to be like, haha, like an accent in another language?
Fuck that shit.
But it's so funny.
It's fucking hilarious, man.
It's like hearing a Caucasian. It's like hearing a Georgian speak Russian. Right? It's also it sounds fucking funny.
Yes.
Anyway.
Come on. It's funny. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not bad. We're not calling it bad or inferior. Liberals in the walls. Absolutely.
For our thankfully very small
people who live in Atlanta
being come to Iran. Like, oh my God, I'm going to kill myself.
Let me get to the meat.
Sorry. Yes.
So, generally, this is how it goes. Iran has a nuclear program. They say it's for peaceful purposes. All indications seem to kind of point in that direction as well, just generally. But Iran
this is an Iraqi saying it, by the way. That means that, like, holy fucking shit.
Exactly.
It's like a Serb saying, the Croats have 1 million rockets, but I think it's kind of chill. Like, you know how difficult it is for an Iraqi to say this? So you should trust them. That's what I'm saying.
If there was an Iran hater, I'm joking. Anyways, oh my God, there's so much niche, like
our American audience is like, what are you people talking about?
Yeah, exactly. They're not gonna understand, and they're gonna boil it down to some stupid surface level, like, ethnic belonging type of, oh well, he must be a fucking Manadian, so that's why I'm not. But anyways, moving aside from all this, all indications seem to point to the fact that Iran is a threshold nation. They are very close to developing a nuclear weapon, should they take the political decision to do so, but they are not. They've even done certain things, such as what was believed to be an intentional leak of a nuclear weapon design that was viable to the public, essentially, that made its way through various channels to Israel and the United States. And this was kind of used as a like, stop fucking with us, because like this is two steps away from the button, right? So stop fucking with us. Regardless, Iran has been hit in return with very, very severe sanctions. In fact, not nearly to the same level that, for example, Cuba or the DPRK or Iraq even was during the 90s, but still very severe sanctions on Iran. As a result of this, the large bulk of issues, particularly domestic and economic, that occur in Iran are a result of these economic sanctions, plus minus, right? There's a few other things that go on in Iran that make it more complicated. Regardless, this is intentional. This is part of the usual American playbook of trying to overthrow governments they don't like. They try to make life as miserable as possible for people on the ground, and as a result, they try to foment discontent that then turns into a proper movement that overthrows the government. One of the ways of trying to kind of break this stupid cycle was to have these nuclear talks. It was before with Obama and then leading with Biden. Now there's a new series with Trump, despite the fact that he kind of just dissolved the previous the results of the previous talks in his first term, if I remember right. Regardless, they're having a new series of talks.
He made the problem that he's now solving. I'm sorry,
but this is the typical Trump thing,
Art of
right?
the deal,
Where
baby.
he wants to come in and always show himself as the problem solver, as the one who gets everything done, blah blah. Even if it requires manufacturing problems. Regardless, this kind of meeting on a high level has not been done since 2018, so it's been quite a while. They met in Amman for general talks on what the framework of the negotiation should be. So it's not even the proper negotiations have started, and it was a very closed door affair. There's no photography. There's no coverage, just generally of the event. But every side has said that it has been fairly constructive. This is still very new. This is 3 days old, this news, as of at the time we're talking. People just refer to it as constructive and useful. What are the general parameters? Because they haven't released them yet. If you go by what the United States has previously said, it's generally like this. Promise us, pinky promise, that you won't develop nuclear weapons. Allow some inspectors into Iran and try to have some kind of oversight over this mechanism. At the same time, we will remove sanctions, right? Particularly on oil industry, but for several other high-level productive industries within Iran. This is kind of the bread and butter of almost every meeting that they have. The place where it gets bogged down is they kind of want to. The United States has tried at several instances to push their inspector angle into basically looking over the entire military network of Iran. So basically, like, show us all your cards, essentially. Let us tour the underground cities. Let us know exactly what form of missiles you have, what number, what warheads, so on and so forth.
And you are aggressive if you don't show us. Like,
exactly.
You are
It's a good scam.
Yeah, exactly right. And at the end of the day, after this was kind of whittled away, this particular condition was whittled away, there was some sort of understanding of some oversight in result for sanction relief, and they never really got too far. Regardless, the latest talks that are going on right now are made in the very cringe Trump administration background of constant, like, toothless threats of, oh, it's going to be bad business for you guys if you don't agree. You're going to have a very bad time. But yeah. The actual dialogue, though, so far, very few details have been revealed. The only thing was that Trump went out and said that he wanted Iran to be a wonderful, great, and happy country, but they can't have nuclear weapons.
But doesn't it kind of, like, I have to admit, it like the id, whatever is left off, kind of works on me. What do I mean? Like, it works on me, obviously, for 10 seconds because I'm not a 12-year-old. So Trump will go on a rant about Iran or China or any other country that he perceives as a threat. But then he will end it. Like, for example, he will go on a rant about China for like 5 minutes and about how he wants to economically annihilate them. But then he will finish it with, but I also think that President Xi is a brilliant man. And the Chinese people, I love the Chinese people. The Chinese Republic, amazing republic, incredible people. We just want to make a fair deal. We just want to coexist. We just want it all to be lovely and kind and chill. And I have to admit, like, that's what I'm saying. My id, like, and I'm a fucking communist. Imagine how much this works, like, on a centrist or whatever. And I'm listening to them like, why do I trust this orange baboon? I trust him for like 5 seconds. I genuinely do. It like it plays on my heartstrings. Like, he's just trying to make a good deal. Like,
He's just a little less lizardy than like someone like Biden.
No,
That's all.
but also more importantly is that if you listen to the, like for example, the Iranian spokespersons have said that it's like we know what kind of what kind of other side that we're dealing with. We know that they have not held to their agreements. We know that they're very,
of
so
course,
on and so forth.
fuck that shit. Yeah.
So yeah, but I understand what you mean. It's always, it shows at least
just
some
be
level of
individual.
promise. Yeah, when the United States at least wants to come to the negotiating table, because so rarely do they want to come to the negotiating table until they're forced to. And soon, with their collapsing empire, they're going to be forced to not only go to the negotiating table but accept terms handed down to them. But generally, this is
listen
like
up, President Xi.
As
I'm
you say,
sorry.
my brother, inshallah.
Inshallah, exactly right.
Absolutely.
Fire one ready, G, please. I have my hand on his shoulder and like, fire one ready.
I'm gonna keep it real with you. You can blow up JT.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
No,
we'll Fulton you out of there.
That is our red line. That is our red
let me
line.
get to the final point here, which is the kind of general request or demand of the United States, which has been kind of uttered through Trump and some of his secretaries, but has not been put on paper right now. It's the full dismantlement, quote unquote, of Iran's nuclear program, which means enrichment, weaponization, and also the strategic missile program that Iran holds, which is absolutely not. Iran will not agree to this.
Yeah,
absolutely
it's a non-starter.
And in reply to this, kind of vaguely, because it's not a on paper demand, Iran has mentioned that they hope to reach an agreement to limit but not dismantle their nuclear program, to maintain its peaceful, nuclear, to bring back the inspectors like they had planned to with the previous deal, so on and so forth. We'll see where this ends up going, but it is, as many Americans would call, it's a stupid fucking saying, but I'll say it regardless, a nothing burger. This is a very frequent distraction of the American ruling class when it comes to Iran, discourse with Iran. The fundamental, like, bedrock of American foreign policy is military action against Iran. It has been like this since after 2003, since after the overthrow of Iraq. And or the legal invasion and overthrow of Iraq and the destruction of its sovereignty and the illegal theft of all its resources, so on and so forth. This has been a fundamental foreign policy objective. They're not going to flip on a dime, be like, "Oh no, we're just so sweet. We want you to be, this is a olive branch extended to Israel, I guess, to be like, look, we're doing something. So like, play ball with us.
It's also domestic propaganda. Come on, it's domestic propaganda, so that if Iran or any other country, ally or enemy, refuses an offer, quote unquote, extended by the Americans that was never extended, they can tell their domestic population that, oh no, we extended the offer, they just rejected it.
Exactly right.
China is fighting the tariffs that are balancing out the deficit that they are causing, and that's why we are responding. We are always responding as Trump's America. We're never the initiators, because he has to, sell himself as a peacemaker, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly right.
The United States has the right to defend itself.
Yeah, exactly right.
It does. Said by Burndige Sandwich from Boston or something.
Oh.
That was a meta joke. I'm sorry. Whoever got it, post in chat. I got it.
Post in chat. It's a podcast.
Add comments.
Unironically, Hugo walks around unironically and be like,
"Oh yeah."
When we're walking around, he'll
chat.
Just
Are
be
we
like,
lost?
Chat. Yeah, like chat. Where we
Dude,
go?
I have abandoned the video essay squad. I know I still from time to time will post, but now I'm streaming. Check out You Got Me Twitch on Twitch.
Please do. It's very entertaining.
You got me. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I love it.
All right.
So much.
You go take it away with your next.
No, that was really well covered. Actually, like I unironically learned a lot from it, because I only got like basic coverage from the side, and I watched a show the other day called The Agency. I hate watched the whole thing. It's basically a recruitment show for the CIA that like does that very smart thing that Americans do, that unfortunately any country from the Balkans or any country from the Middle East is yet to learn, and that is when you're doing recruitment for your particular when it comes to the CIA, let's be honest, terrorist organization. You can
Mhm.
censor that if you want.
Mhm.
You in the show, you criticize the organization. You're like, oh, we are not perfect, but
Yeah.
if you come and join, maybe we can become perfect. And
Oh
it
my
had
gosh.
a whole like side. I know, but it's smart.
It
I have
works.
it has a whole like side quest type of story in it with like a very new agent that wants to get embedded in Iran, right? And she's supposed to
Of
because
course.
she's
Is she
she's
also a
a
POC? Hmm?
she's no, she's like a Spanish lady. Okay, I guess for
Yeah.
Americans would be PhD, but she's like she's got like a PhD or whatever in seismology, like earthquake shit,
Of
and she
course.
wants
Oh,
to
she's detecting the
and
the shakes from nuclear testing. Oh my god.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because there's an
Stupid.
Iranian guy that's a seismologist that
Yeah.
every 2 years for 3 months teaches in London.
Yeah.
And he teaches in London because he's the world's greatest expert. And when he gets to pick one student that he
Mm.
takes back with him to Iran, and the CIA knows that he is also
Mm.
working on Iranian nuclear projects. So, question number one: the guy's working on Iranian nuclear projects. Why the fuck are they letting him go to Britain for 3 months? What
Yeah.
on what planet? But okay, but she needs to manipulate and fuck over the other students, literally ruin their life because they're all hyped to go to Iran because apparently, at least that's what the show says, it's like very peak when it comes to their science, when it
Mm.
comes to seismology and so on,
Mm.
geography, blah blah blah. So she has to ruin the lives of like 3 other people in order to get in there. But like you're watching the show and you're like, okay, holy fuck, they're actually making it gray. They're actually making like she's supposed to manipulate this professor that loves his country, is dedicated to science, but also maybe is developing a weapon system that is inherently defensive in this particular case, right? And you're like, oh my god, they're like, holy shit, they're doing like, oh my god, the CIA does gray stuff. No, of course not. You know why? Obviously, it's a female agent, and you cannot have gray in an American show. The guy
Mhm.
tries to sexually assault her immediately because
Mm.
he's obviously what's the word? He's a Persian and he's hairy and he's brown and they
All
assault
right.
white women.
Look,
And,
make
and then
make
all of a
hold on,
sudden,
hold on.
it wants the viewer to be like, rapist man.
Mm.
Also enemy countryman. Fuck you, Peter Snipper is on the
Peter
case.
Snipper guy.
It's so
Make
fucking
him
funny.
make the Iranian guy Iraqi and make the woman JT, and this is very accurate.
True. Yes. I have to sit on the side and be like, oh my God, am I
Iraqi and
supposed to
meat.
do something? So sorry for the rant, but yes, the agency, Apple TV, complete shit. Watch it just to get angry. It's not bad. It's very good. It makes you want to join the CIA. I was like, why didn't I ever? Maybe I did. You will never know.
Oh,
So
great.
they gave me the worst department, the podcast department. But jokes aside, yeah, it's bad. Like they genuinely could not fathom doing a show where it's gray, so they immediately made him into sexual assault guy, the only
Mm.
guy worse than Peter Snipper guy. But now let's, ladies and gentlemen, and NBs, of course. I have a fun mixed bag of hope pill and good old gossip for you.
Mhm.
This might be relatively old news for some of you non-grass touchers, but I can't help but comment. So get your babushka scarf on, brew some hot tea, and join me in dropping some fire takes.
Mm.
Now, maybe you can like drop like a song there or something like a
Not gonna do that.
fireplace. The fuck? Jesus Christ. I'm going to stop calling you a producer. I swear to God. Okay,
Yeah.
so most of you should know about a little company called the Daily Wire. Funded by fundamentalist Christian oil money, it's been the quintessential right wing media platform of the past decade. But that might be coming to an end. Internal intrigue, ideological clashes, financial bad decisions, and ironically, them suffering from their own success might be all the pieces of the puzzle we'll need for this large, smeary turd. The CEO, Boring, yes, his name is fucking Boring, has stepped down from his position. The exit was announced without clear reasoning, suggesting internal power struggles or financial instability. Given the Daily Wire's role as a key propaganda arm of the far right, his departure might reflect broader tensions between the libertarian conservative faction, represented by Shapiro, and the more overtly Trumpist and not too Israel loving populist wing of the organization. This, of course, mirrors the larger crisis in right wing media, where traditional conservative outlets struggle to reconcile their ideological purity with the demands of an increasingly radicalized base. The fact that Boring was replaced by himself, remaining as a co CEO in like some very fucking bizarre restructuring,
Hmm.
suggests either a failed coup or an attempt to mask deeper dysfunction. To add context, yes, I'm talking to you, Mike, that's currently driving a car. You, yeah, that's going to be weird for that one
You're
Mike
gonna kill
driving his
somebody.
car, listening
Yeah.
to the show. You might not be too exposed to the civil war brewing on the epic marketplace of ideas they love so much. Basically, the Daily Wire played a really big role in making fresh baby right wingers, but they did their job a little bit too well and pushed them down the pipeline so hard that a lot of them are becoming a little bit too anti Semitic and racist,
Hmm.
even for the Shapiroists, which has started a larger creator split between the two tents all across YouTube, where some are calling the Daily Wire sellouts to this or that grand anti American conspiracy, or solidifying their support because they don't want to admit to themselves just how fucking racist they are. This bubble is only going to grow, of course, as long as Ben's crew either pivots or refuses, which will make said bubble bursting just a question of time. But it's not just ideology either. It carries material consequences as well. And no, I don't mean it in a Marxist way. It's literally just losing the money, and the grifters are infighting over the direction the company needs to take so that the bottom line does not suffer. Now, while Shapiro and Boring have built a lucrative business by monetizing outrage, selling subscriptions to reactionary content, producing anti woke films, and courting wealthy right wing donors, this model may be hitting its obvious limits. The conservative media grift relies on what? Perpetual fear mongering to sustain engagement.
Hmm.
However, as audience become desynthesized, or as legal battles like the Daily Wire's feud with Candace Owens creates instability, the financial foundation weakens. The departure of a top executive could signal that even well funded right wing outlets are not immune to market pressures.
Mm.
Hmm.
Which, come on, you gotta love
That's
how
beautiful.
ironic that is. That is a snake eating its own ass in the best of forms.
Hmm.
But we also gotta mention that Ben Shapiro represents the so-called intellectual face of conservatism, a
Wow.
fast-talking pundit who disguises reactionary politics under a veneer of pseudo logic. Boring, though, has a different philosophy, more focused on the entertainment side, pushing into film production and very aggressive counterculture, anti woke wars, and so on. So, this is leading to the broader right wing split between elitist conservatives who prefer polished, respectable propaganda, and in your face reactionaries who thrive on raw bigotry and conspiracy theories. If Boring's exit was driven by Shapiro's desire to mainstream the brand or vice versa, it reveals the difficulty of balancing these two approaches in an ever radicalizing market. For the left, though, this is a moment to highlight how the right wing media machine built on lies, hate, and capitalist oligarchy is inherently unstable. While these outlets will continue to exist as long as, of course, right wing billionaires fund them, their internal chaos exposes the contradictions of a movement that claims to stand for free speech, but is really about consolidating power for the far right. Boring's mysterious exit, to finish off, is more than just gossip. It's a sign that even the most successful right wing media ventures are so fucking incredibly fragile. Their business model depends on keeping audiences angry and addicted. But as the conservative movement fractures between traditionalists, MAGA extremists, ethno nationalists, and so on, sustaining that model becomes so much harder. So, this is a reminder that while right wing media remains obviously very fucking dangerous, its foundations are so shaky. The task for progressives and so on, the general, as wide of possible that I can betray all my ideals in saying movement, is to keep exposing their financial backers, their lies, and their role in propping up backwards politics while building a landscape rooted in solidarity, not division. And no, motherfucker, this is not a Patreon pitch because this is a Patreon episode. So I guess that makes it a thank
Means
you.
TV
So
pitch.
thank you.
Exactly right.
No, well said. Well said. It's very funny watching them squabble. Like, these guys are all paid millions and millions and millions of dollars, and they're just still fighting and making terrible movies. Like, it's interesting to watch, to say the least.
No, because it's like, sorry, no, it's worth mentioning because like the leftist pipeline pushes people further down class consciousness, but you can still interact with less radical but still class conscious content, right? While with their pipeline, once you swallow the Jews pill or the blacks pill or the misogyny pill or whatever, you genuinely cannot go back. You cannot go down the funnel and enjoy the content of somebody that isn't actively talking about them Arabs or them women's or them transes, right? So it's just ironically, just from a market perspective, the more you radicalize someone, the more audience you lose. While for leftists, it doesn't work that way. It's very good if you radicalize them. That means you're actually materially contributing to the cause, because if you're not, then you're just creating entertainment. While at the same time, knowing that those people will sometimes come back and watch your shit or continue financially supporting you or whatever the fuck, because there's no contradiction. While with right-wing stages, there is massive contradiction, and that's where the infighting comes from. I just find it fascinating. I don't know about you.
It's great. It's great to watch. You're right. It's less of a funnel and more of like a flooding submarine where as soon as the water reaches a certain point, the hatch closes, and then they're in this next one. They can't go back to the water. The hatch closes.
I am stealing that allegory. Phenomenal allegory.
Take it and run with it, brother. I give that to you free of charge.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Now let me depress y'all again, shall we? I'm going to go and talk about the El Salvador thing now. I don't know how in-depth we want to go on this one, but we have to at least explain CICOT and the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, which is an insane thing to have to talk about, but here goes. People are being deported from the U.S. in large numbers and sent to CICOT, which is El Salvador's so-called terrorism confinement center. It's a mega prison. That's basically a black box torture facility. And it's the pride and joy of the country's psychopath president. How do you say this guy's name? Nayib Bukele?
Bukakele.
All right, I'm not going to...
No, both of you have to say it. Okay. At this point, motherfucker murdering people. Bukakele. Come on, let's do it.
What is
We're
wrong?
adapting to right-wing methodology.
Your brain is beautiful.
This is what you call it. This is the shitbag left. Okay, we are. The Deprogram is post dirtbag left. We're post dirtbag left. We are shitbag left. We use the methodology, not the belief system, the methodology of the right wing, and we direct it as a cannon back at them. So we need very spicy words to describe people that you can Bukakele. Bukakele. So
But importantly,
Bukakele.
we're still
Okay.
beautiful and sweet and pure of heart.
Yes,
Unlike
and
the
not
right.
to get bukaked all the time.
Okay, moving
Like
on.
Bukakele's wife, probably.
The maximum,
God.
oh my
Yeah,
God, the
yeah.
maximum security prison was built in 2022 as part of Bukele's draconian crackdown on gang activity. It opened in January of 2023 and began accepting inmates the following month. It is currently the largest prison complex in Latin America and one of the largest in the world, with a stated maximum capacity of 40,000 people. It currently holds somewhere around 15,000, though that number is quickly rising. In March of this year, the Salvadoran government incarcerated over 200 deportees that the Trump admin alleged were Venezuelan gang members. The problem is, much like with the pro-Palestine students, neither the ICE thugs nor the State Department actually need to prove anything. They can just swoop in, grab a bunch of brown people, and lock them away in a dungeon without any recourse forever. Okay, but
If you have a
penal
Pokemon
colony.
tattoo.
Yeah.
exactly right. There's a
God.
gang tattoo. No, bro,
On
this
a
is
literal
Whooper.
penal colony, but like Russia has penal colonies, but guess where they are? Inside of Russian territory.
Yeah.
Still have to be adjusted to Russian law. Well, these guys obviously don't. Sorry.
No, we learned from the internment camps in World War II. Like, we'll just offshore it next time, right? No blowback. But why, right? Why racism is the easy answer, and that's definitely part of it. But obviously, there's another very capitalist component. I'm not going to get into it, but it's worth looking into. On February 3rd of this year, Bukele met with little Marco and agreed to accept U.S. deportees, quote, in exchange for a fee. So this is a modern extension of the slave trade, in some capacities at least. But let me rewind for a sec and get to the legal aspect of all this. Because as we all know, Republicans, Trump especially, are very willing to test the limits of what they can get away with. They generally just kind of do what they want, but they usually have to come up with some lip service justification. And for this particular arrangement, sending U.S. residents off to what's been called the black box of human rights without due process, the Trump team is invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798.
1798?
1798. Yeah, which is remarkable. Usually they'll be like, 1981, maybe 1956, but no, 1798. The act is one of 4 laws, collectively known as the Alien and Sedition Acts, passed by the Federalist-controlled Congress during heightened tensions with France back in the late 1700s. This specific act, which is still in effect today, grants the U.S. president power to detain, arrest, deport, or otherwise restrict the freedoms of non-citizens from a hostile nation during times of war or declared emergency. Now, there are some key provisions to consider here. 1, it applies only to nationals of a country that the U.S. is at war with or under imminent threat from. Now, that's the important bit, that imminent
Venezuela.
threat thing. It allows the president to issue proclamations outlining restrictions on such individuals, including deportation or imprisonment. And 3, unlike other parts of the Alien and Sedition Acts, which expired or were repealed, this part of the law remains active. So, Trump didn't need to come up with a new law allowing him to do this stuff. He just dredged up a really old one and asserted that the U.S. is under imminent threat from Venezuela because of supposed infiltration by a particular gang. This is another one of those instances where it's like, first they came for the Venezuelans, right? It's just always going to be like this under Republicans. This act, and frankly, Democrats too, we saw a lot of deportations with Biden and Obama and on, but it's particularly heinous right now under Trump because he's just very gung-ho about this sort of thing. This act has been very rarely invoked, the obvious other time being against Japanese, Italian, and German nationals during World War II, and we all know how well the Japanese internment camps went, right? So as I said, the solution is just to outsource the internment somewhere else. Now, would you like to know how bad CCOT is? Because I've got some bullet points for you. CCOT does not adhere to the Red Cross's international standard that recommends that each prisoner receives at least 3.4 square meters, or 37 square feet, of space in a cell. CCOT, on average, gives prisoners 0.6 square meters. 6.5 square feet of space.
That's the body.
6.5 square feet.
But no, that's the body. I think that's literally the body.
just
If I
go
do
paste
like
that
this.
out. Go get a tape measure or a ruler and paste that out and see how long it would take before you went insane. Because it gets worse. Martin Horn, a former administrator of the Rikers Island prison, stated that 40,000 prisoners is, quote, too many to manage in one place under any circumstances. So you know it's bad when our own murder pit officials get queasy. Another one, there are not enough bunks for every prisoner assigned to each cell. When the BBC asked an official what the maximum capacity of each cell was, he replied that where you can fit 10 people, you can fit 20. They're packing people in like sardines, even before they get to the 40,000.
And you can refit it because,
Yes, you can.
I mean, at this point, pure conspiracy. But come on, let's be fucking honest here. We're fucking adults. You know, you have 20 in a cell, and then you have another 20 in a cell after a week, but 10 of them are different people. And you don't ask questions about where the 50% that disappeared went to.
Correct.
I don't know if the capacity is at that level yet, but
it will be. That's the goal.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure JT's going to mention it, so I'm not going to. Please continue. Apologies.
No, you're right. And you've probably seen the pictures, and if you haven't, go look them up. There is a very clear parallel to be drawn when you see a bunch of shaved heads in prison uniforms crammed into cots, a dozen deep.
Yeah, but you don't even have to do like historic perils, which you obviously should. But I'm saying even if you don't do historic perils of camps, etc., just statistically, like, bro, like the amount of people going in and the amount of people going out, it ain't exactly making sense.
The math ain't mathing, right?
You can't put so many people there. They're not coming out. But again, this is not approved by anything, so I don't want to get the Deprogram sued or whatever the fuck. But come on, we're adults. Jesus
hey,
Christ,
we'd get free publicity. Well, expensive publicity if we lose the case. But
we don't need this.
Yeah, but to give you some more established facts here, people in Sikot face, quote, severe overcrowding and, quote, inadequate food. Prisoners are deprived of rights such as outside recreation and family visitation outlined by international guidelines. Antonio Duran, a senior judge in the country, said that the conditions in Sikot amount to, quote, torture. And Miguel Sarre, a former member of the United Nations Subcommittee for the Prevention of Torture, described the prison as, quote, a concrete and steel pit used to dispose people without formally applying the death penalty.
Yeah. Those two guys are going to get killed. Those two guys are dead in the next 5 years.
It's about as grim a description as you can get. And it's like you were saying there, Yugopnik, like, it's a disposal facility. It's just people aren't meant to leave. But let's talk some numbers here. It's hard to track exactly, as this is a pretty shady operation, but as far as we can tell, so far, the Trump administration has deported about 238 people, specifically to this Salvadoran prison. Yeah. That number would be higher, but thankfully, at least one judge has managed to slow the process and block some deportations. This number is awful, of course, and it will certainly rise, but we also need to consider the implications here in the United States. People can't be deported without first being rounded up and detained, often in secret locations. So let's look at the American Gestapo, ICE. I'm going to give you a few quotes, and you boys tell me if this sounds, like, bad. All right, quote. His son was on his way back, just steps from his home when ICE agents grabbed him. The officers grabbed him and two other boys right at the entrance of their building. One said, no, he's not the one, like they were looking for someone else. But the other said, take him anyway. Another quote. Yeah. She said the men didn't tell her why they were arresting her and shackled her. She said at one point, after they had changed cars, she felt, quote, sure they were going to kill me. During a stop in Massachusetts, one of the men said to her, we're not monsters. We just do what the government tells us. Again, with the historical parallels, that they ain't going to stand up at the eventual trials. Another quote.
What fucking trials? There's fucking walls and there's fucking pits. You take... so nobody can find them. Then you take trucks. So they can't see, so you can slide back, and one actually opens. So you open the big metal door. Give me a fucking week. How many ICE agents are there? The NKVD was too fucking soft. Jesus fucking Christ.
That was the longest deprogram beep in history. Hope you all.
And it wasn't me this
Fuck
time.
this
This wasn't me.
It was.
Oh,
I
yes,
agree,
no.
though.
I
completely
completely agree with you. This behavior is inhuman on any level. The fact that there are any ICE agents left and they haven't all quit their jobs.
Habeas corpus guys, jury of your peers, land of the
Yeah.
free. You have so many of these fucking bullshit
Restrictions apply. Yeah.
Oh my God.
All right, another quote for you boys. 404 Media has seen parts of a Palantir-powered ICE database that allows for highly specific filtering of people, which allows for searches of students, people with tattoos, from specific countries, by visa status, etc. Palantir-powered. Palantir. Go look up what
Palantir,
Palantir.
yeah,
Yeah, go look that up.
Oh, we may or may not have done a first thought video on
yeah,
this
yeah.
about the what was the title? Fuck the. This was
I
almost
don't
a good
know.
pitch. This
The
was
Tech War
almost a
one?
good pitch. Yeah.
Yeah, you gave it a
All
shot.
these
You
Silicon
gave it a
Valley
shot.
companies and
There
what
we
they
go.
do
Yeah,
with-
Silicon Valley, this or that. It was a
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
one. It was very good.
It's an
It was good.
amazing one. And we're always before our time, I swear to
Yeah,
God.
yeah, yeah.
With the tariffs and that video, and somebody else made a video about Palantir like
Yeah.
a month later, 1.5 million.
We have the mandate.
Always like too fast, son of a bitch. And I'm forcing these guys to be
analysis is
faster.
too sharp. My God, the contradictions, I feel them.
I'm gonna
sharpening.
contradict. I'm gonna
Let me give you one more.
contract.
Let me give you one
please
more
do.
quote.
Sorry, sir.
This might be my favorite. We need to get better at treating this like a business, acting ICE
Oh
Director
my
Todd
God,
Lyon said,
astaghfirullah.
explaining that he wants to see a deportation process, quote, like Amazon Prime, but with human beings.
Жица, brate. Hakim, you know what a жица is? You just like line up a жица and you just push him into it.
Yeah.
Like bullets are too expensive, bro.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Cockpit activity is what this
Yeah,
requires.
yeah, yeah. Or that.
Please.
This is hard to find a whole that.
Your Honor,
You know?
please refer to the first example of work that we have here. It's the picture of JT with the fucking iPad. Just shows the cockpit.
That's one of my favorite memes.
Sir, please walk over here. Push. Sir,
Anyway.
please walk over here. Push.
So those quotes,
God.
this is pretty bad. I think I don't know. But same with my previous story. This is just how it starts. These are the building blocks of a deportation and disappearing apparatus that will be applied to anyone who does not toe the American imperialist line. Anyone who is deemed other, who expresses anti-American sentiment. Just watch out for each other. Be careful what you post online. And if you're white, do use what little privilege you have to help when you can. Like as brutal as the ICE thugs are, they are way more hesitant to beat up a white lady or a dude in a suit. So speak up when you're able. Do some good. But I'll end this story.
Sorry,
Yeah.
and as a non-American guy who's also an immigrant, not living in the country he's from, I know that this is like very sensitive, and I genuinely apologize for saying it. But if you're currently in the process, starting the process, I know that if it's in advanced stages, you can't do anything about it. You've spent a lot of money, etc., etc.
Mhm.
But if you're in the starting process of deciding potentially about what country to move to
Mhm.
in the nearby future, please reconsider going to the States. Please reconsider
Mhm.
this
Yeah,
particular state.
yeah.
Please do.
Yeah.
Trust me, I think it's going to be a fuck up. What? What? What?
Yeah.
Can anybody?
Yeah.
That would
I've
actually break
never-
my brain if somebody read
Genuinely,
what I
yeah.
just said that way.
At this rate, at this rate, you don't go to the Zion Center. You don't go to the United States. God, there's so much better. If you want to go speak English, dude, go to New Zealand, right?
Dude,
and
absolutely.
sure, there's also colonial heritage there and whatnot, but it's
Of course.
like in the grand
Yeah.
scheme of things,
Or-
you have to
So
pick your
many
poison.
places.
And they have a funny
Right.
accent, so that's a
Yeah,
plus.
exactly
So many
right, yeah.
places.
Anyway,
So many
let me
places.
wrap this up. All right. I just want to give you one little anecdote of one of the hundreds of people deported to El Salvador. His name is Meruel Gutierrez. On February 24th, U.S. ICE detained 19-year-old Meruel. He had no criminal record, neither in Venezuela nor the U.S.
This is a requirement at this rate to be arrested by ICE.
Yeah, you have to be normal. Nor did he have any tattoos, right? This is one of the features that the U.S. police are using to link Venezuelans to the Tren de Aragua gang. This was from one of my quotes from earlier. Meruel was out running errands with a friend when ICE rolled up out of nowhere. They mistook him for someone else. They realized it, and they snatched him anyway. So the kid and his family were in the country legally. They did everything by the books, and then randomly, an innocent 19-year-old was shoved into a van, shipped to multiple states without so much as a phone call to his family, and eventually transferred overseas to CCOT.
Yeah.
His father finally managed to speak to his son on March 16th after an exhausting search and countless dead ends. Every police station and courthouse he went to said, "Sorry, we don't have any record of your son being here." Finally, it was the son who reached out when he was allowed a brief phone call from Pennsylvania. He was told he would be sent back to Venezuela, but instead, he was sold off to a maximum security black site in a country he's never been to. And I'll end by quoting the article directly because it sums up this whole thing pretty well, I think. Quote, "The Trump administration has recognized they mistakenly deported some individuals among the 238 Venezuelans sent to El Salvador, like Gilmar Abrego Garcia, a Maryland resident with TPS status whose detention ICE admitted was an administrative error." The father, Wilmer, says he hopes his son's detention could also be an administrative error. The wait for him, he says, has been desperate and anguishing. In the meantime, he has questioned some things, including his faith in the American dream, because
of
what
course.
looked like a dream at first wasn't. After moving here, he left his daughter in Venezuela and his mother, who died from cancer last December. He couldn't say goodbye to her. Yes, the U.S. offered Gutierrez a better salary, but at the cost of worse working and living conditions. And more painful than that, he says, is the feeling that this country has torn his family apart. So, that is the Trump regime, and more broadly the United States, in a nutshell. This is the path we're on. I like to stay optimistic, but man, like, we got an uphill battle ahead of us.
Generally, this
We
is
do, but
ridiculous.
it is a sign of coming struggle.
Yep.
It is a sign of coming distrust, and most importantly, it is a sign of coming instability. We need to always remember. We sometimes LARP, but I think at least on the Deprogram, we always mean it very seriously. Things need to get much worse before they get better. But also, some Marxists agree on this. I'm not saying this is the pure truth, but like most, not most. Let's be honest here. All successful revolutions have utilized a moment of crisis so extreme that society started falling at the seams. I'm not saying that there is enough organizational capacity at the current moment over in the U.S. On the left that could fully maximize the potential of a coming crisis, but I also don't believe that the coming crisis, which is obviously extrapolating, that it is that collapse is going to be as soon as we might think it is. So what we need to do is realize that these are some of the first signs of coming total collapse. And if there is anything that should inspire you to organize locally and to do everything that we've been fucking preaching for fucking 200 episodes at this point, is this. Because up until relatively recently, like 3-4 years ago, you could do, you can swallow cope and say, oh, it's not as close as I might think. This is screaming in your fucking face that in your lifetime, there is a very high possibility of total collapse. So start fucking doing something about that collapse being utilized by you and your comrades, and not Mitch over there who thinks that, I don't know, Mexicans don't know how to read because their father's name is Pueblo. Okay?
Yeah, and this is not Mitch Whiting we're talking about. He's a good man.
Oh, no, Mitch is lovely. I love Mitch.
We can't ever disregard the Mitch. Well, we need to get him on one of these days.
Yeah.
All right, let me round it off with the final update, and this is the Israel-Palestine thing, the ongoing ethnic cleansing and genocide of the brave Palestinian people by an unrelenting and evil enemy hell-bent on ethnic cleansing for the purpose of a racial supremacist goal that will never see its end conclusion. Its development is blocked by virtue of the contradictions that underline that nation or that military occupation. Regardless, let's enter into the
Dog
general overview.
fuckers.
you had a ceasefire at the time that was set up through the incredibly brave Palestinian resistance that forced the Israeli hand into accepting a ceasefire, despite their overwhelming superiority in firepower and international support and weaponry and fine in every aspect, because they're a small besieged country or a small besieged area, referring to Gaza specifically, with absolutely nothing that's allowed to go in or out without the help or without the sheer permission of the Israelis, regardless. The original ceasefire deal was planned to be in three phases. The first phase, which was begun at the time, was to last for 42 days. It was meant to release 33 Israeli hostages, and in return, Israel would release many hundreds, I believe 1,100 specific is the exact number of Palestinian hostages that are being held in so-called administrative detention in Israel. By the way, they're not criminals. These are just some of
Yeah.
these people are as young as 10 years old. And by the way, even if they had committed some sort of quote unquote crime, resistance is not a crime when you're under a colonial military occupation. Regardless, the other parts of the first phase was that Israeli forces were to withdraw from the most populated areas and just withdraw basically to where the envelope is, the very borders of Gaza. And humanitarian aid would then flow into Gaza. Israel, from the very get go, was trying to break the ceasefire, or was breaking the ceasefire. They would continuously target people, like daily. There's 20, 40 people, civilians, being killed. That's what an Israeli ceasefire is like. It's like in Lebanon, where there's a quote unquote ceasefire and Israel is still bombing, for example, Beirut or whatever. Regardless, they would try to close the or prevent or limit humanitarian aid coming into Gaza, amongst other things. Regardless, the next step was to be phase two, where a permanent ceasefire would be agreed on. The exact details were to be negotiated, but the idea was that all the hostages on the Palestinian side would be released and let back into Israel. More Palestinian hostages and detainees would be released from the Israeli side. Israeli troops would then fully withdraw from Gaza completely, and there would be details plus guarantees for a permanent ceasefire. And then the phase three would be the reconstruction of Gaza, which were to be, of course, negotiated. This is when they would give the remains of certain hostages that were killed, usually by Israeli bombing, because it's an intention
Yeah.
of them to kill the hostages. Israel and the Israeli government finds the hostages to be a thorn in their side. So they've tried their utmost to kill as many of them as they could.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, also to include the further phases or the further steps of phase three would include details on rebuilding Gaza, establishing its government, the funding of it, so on and so forth. Now, on March 1st, the first phase of the ceasefire expired, and the agreement on the second phase would not be, the Israelis wouldn't even show up to the table half the time. And instead, they came up with a counter proposal in direct, what's it called? Direct, uh, I guess, contradiction to the original plan.
Opposition. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which was they want to extend the first phase, which means more hostages being released without the Israelis doing anything
Yeah.
in return. It's just them allowing more humanitarian aid to enter in. This was the Palestinian factions clearly saw this as a attempt
Breaking
to
of the deal,
specific.
because
Yeah,
that's what
yeah,
it was. We agreed on A, and now you're saying I want A
yeah,
plus B. Fucking,
yeah. Mm.
which obviously was not reported by Western media. I don't
Of
fucking know.
course,
No.
Like that was
of
like
No.
course,
complete
yeah,
blackout.
yeah.
Complete blackout on that
Yeah,
even
yeah, yeah.
happening.
And Netanyahu's office that same day on March 1st said that the fighting will resume, or the bombing and destruction of Palestine will resume, if he feels, or the Israeli government feels, that the negotiations are ineffective. Of course, as a direct result of Israeli lack of engagement with
Yeah.
negotiations. And March 2nd, the next day, Israel cuts off all aid from Gaza in an attempt to pressure the Palestinian factions into accepting this extension. And then afterwards, the bombing and everything else starts. They cut off the electricity supply to Gaza. They resume intense airstrikes. They target water purification centers that are bought, and they target generators. They target collections of people around humanitarian aid, so on and so forth. The typical things that Israel likes to do. And then by March 19th, they would resume also ground operations in the central and southern Gaza Strip. Where they would move in and get fucking smoked through usual, getting sniped, getting blown up, so on and so forth. To the point that this is becoming fairly untenable for the Israeli public, because every single time Israel has gone into some part of Gaza, there's certain parts of Gaza that they have occupied 8 times in a row now, right? And every single time they declare that it's now completely clear, the particular detachment of Hamas or whatever else, whichever other Palestinian faction has been fully disarmed in this area, and now we have full control of this, and then they get smoked again. Right, so they're forced into retreat and they leave, or they just can go back into just massacring civilians. They occupy again after a month or 2 or 3. They get smoked. They leave after, of course, declaring again that it's over. I think fool me once, shame on me. Fool me 8 or 9 times. The Israeli public will eventually catch on and be like, "You're full of shit. What you're doing."
Horror sperm for me 10 times. I'm a fool.
Exactly right. Yeah. When Israel resumed the ground operations that first day, it killed more than 400 people, civilians, and then afterwards, the defense minister came out with a statement saying that this was just the beginning. And he said also, Israel act with force you have not yet seen, which is strange. There's nothing more that you can do. You've already carpet bombed from the air. You've occupied. You've killed. You tortured. You kidnapped. You've done everything. There's nothing left for you to do. And the only thing that you would love to do, you salivate at the thought of, which is dropping weapons that would cause radiation, nuclear weapons or whatever on Gaza, which is what they have said openly that they would like to do and that they recommend doing. It would directly affect the rest of Israel, so that they wouldn't. That's the only reason stopping them. And by the way, if Israel was large enough that a good chunk of Israel wouldn't be affected, only like a few cities within Israel, they would 10,000% sacrifice their civilians for this shit. 10,000%.
They do it regularly.
Exactly a little right. Samson option as a treat.
Yeah, exactly right. Hannibal directive and all that shit. I've never seen a government that hates its people this fucking much. Even they give the Americans a run for their money. But anyways, after all these various cuts and whatnot that they've been doing to like electricity and humanitarian aid and trying to destroy water purification and whatnot, they're kind of at the same place that they were before the ceasefire, where they can't really do much more. Like, there's not many more buildings left to destroy. There's not that many, and groups of civilians. Sure, you can continue to target them, but the international situation this is not going to help Israel's long-term goal of ethnic cleansing. You can't bomb, you can't genocide a population through bombs, right? As much as they've been trying, of course.
Maybe they can sign a contract with El Salvador.
Exactly. What this has resulted in is, by the way, significant Israeli military refusals to service, as well as groups like Breaking the Silence, which are testimonies of Israeli military veterans coming out with their statements and basically outlining the various war crimes that have occurred and
also brave people. Why did I say pussy boy? Because let's be honest, when we look at statistics, most of them probably don't go because they're cowards. But respect to the ones that actually, even with prison time, refuse to serve. Blessed.
I'm talking about people. These aren't the Breaking the Silence aren't people who refuse to serve. These are Israeli veterans. So in this essence, they are semi-reformed war criminals. But not coming to terms with the horrible crimes you've committed and not doing everything in your utmost to break down the system is the bare minimum. Going to do these things is the bare minimum, right? They don't deserve praise, but for how depraved how depraved Israeli society is, it is actually kind of semi-commendable to these people. Regardless, the Palestinian factions have returned to this gradual attritional warfare. They have, in an essence, regrouped. I believe American intelligence kind of let loose the fact that they believe that the Palestinian factions have not only entirely regrouped, but they believe that their total numbers and battle activity and whatnot has increased since 2023, not decreased. Which is, of course, unsurprising. This is the tempest and the iron being struck to harden it in the Vietnamese, like not to use the French, but the par excellence of the Vietnamese example.
Turns out when you kill my mom and my sister, there's a higher chance I will want to fucking throw a grenade at you. Fucking.
Who could have guessed?
Throw a grenade? You mean a highly highly sophisticated ambushes that take out 29 fucking lieutenants?
Vasily, what are you doing?
Beautiful work on that side. There was one thing that I just kind of want to like put the point on, these have always been attempts by the Israeli side to kind of push the Palestinian factions into like a bitter peace, to force their hand, and it's never worked ever. But Israel still tries to come out with this stuff. And the latest proposal, and this is brand new. I'm reporting on this 3 hours since it's been
Oh wow.
what's it called
Announced.
released,
Mhm.
and it is that Israel has proposed a 6-week ceasefire in Gaza. 6 weeks, all right,
Mhm.
not even 2 months. 6 weeks. Do you know
Mhm.
why, or what's what they want to get in return?
What?
Mm.
All Palestinian factions should immediately disarm and give up their weapons, and they will get a 6-week
Please stop.
You
ceasefire.
want me to graga, блядь, какой курац?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Of course.
Exactly right. And also, by the way, that there's no commitment to end the war in it. There's no commitment to end the genocide. There's no commitment for an Israeli troop pullout. Nothing. It's just they said you'll
Fuck
get a
those
6-week
people.
ceasefire if you can immediately disarm, and then we'll immediately get back to bombing you.
And for the liberals in the walls, the Palestinians for the last fucking 70 to 80 years were the most proactive. I cannot compare them to any people that were as imperialized and colonized as they were, that were so fucking willing to come to the table and negotiate, no matter how much they shouldn't have, obviously, because
Mm.
they're negotiating with somebody about their own land and their own people, etc., etc. So, not commenting on that at all. There is arguably no people that have been as willing to negotiate with an enemy that is so profoundly materially in the wrong as the Palestinian people. So, uh, what do I mean when I talk to the liberals in the walls when it comes to this particular case? Is because some liberal in the wall might be like, oh, they're offering you an olive branch,
Hmm.
fucking
Hmm.
a lot of
Mm.
fucking,
Hmm.
why are you not taking it? Because we gave them olive branches 10 fucking thousand times in the last fucking half century, and the 2-3 times they took it, they were holding a knife behind their back.
Yeah,
So
exactly
eat
right.
my
They
fucking
really
ass.
forced their hand, but that is
Mm.
they're not gonna take this. But do you want to know my favorite thing? Just like in the past 2 days, the few field hospitals that have been set up, because all hospitals in Gaza have been thoroughly destroyed
Mhm.
or rendered basically ineffective because of Israeli strikes. The few field hospitals that were set up during these 2-month ceasefire, both of or two of them have been directly struck by Israeli airstrikes, and their usual thing is like, oh, it was a Hamas command and control center. Of course, just the place where all the wounded are and everything. And like at this point, I'm like, if you're so good at taking out Hamas command and control centers, why are they still functioning at a higher capacity than before? Like you
yeah.
can't, either you're militarily incompetent, which you are, or you're trying to target people to just to commit genocide. You pick your fucking poison. It's the truth is it's both.
And also before any person in the audience is like, oh, but they're just targeting Muslims. I'm not a Muslim, whatever the
Mm.
fuck. I don't know if you know what fucking holiday is coming up and just how holy the last
Mhm.
fucking week is.
Mm.
The one of the oldest hospitals in Gaza that happens to be a literal, like, quote unquote, whatever that means, like Christian hospital that has a church inside of
Mm.
it, was hit yesterday. Okay.
Mhm.
If you think they give a shit about you as a Christian,
Look,
you as an atheist, you as a Hindu, you as a
uh,
whatever the fuck,
uh,
please, my
look what they
friend.
do.
I have a
Look what
fridge
they
in
do
San
in Bethlehem.
Francisco.
All right, look what is the
Yeah.
Israelis do in Bethlehem, and then
Yeah.
come back to me.
Yeah.
Anyways, and the final point,
The
just to round.
oldest, the fucking.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a believer in shit. I'm not even going to go there because it's going to sound like I'm doing fucking some sort of Christian chauvinism or whatever the fuck. But
Yeah.
literally, the fucking temple that's built on where we believe that Jesus Christ was crucified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Google what they fucking did there like 2 weeks ago. Like,
It's
Yeah.
insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
It's ridiculous.
come on, bro.
But
It's too easy. It feels
yeah,
too easy,
yeah,
man.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. It's like you can't like if a person's intentionally not looking because it serves their material
Mhm.
interest to not look, then they won't. There's nothing you can do to them, right? Everybody involved knows what's happening. Every Israeli leader, every international leader, and the vast majority of the public around the world, aside from Israel, because they're inoculated in a little bubble of what's it called, like highly
Hasbara.
curated. The meme that they make about North Korea. That's Israel in reality
Yeah.
with their
Yeah.
media,
Yeah.
unironically. But for the final point is, more cracks are now appearing at the military side. of things. Several sections of the military are kind of unhappy with or not kind of, they're very unhappy with the turning of the war. They don't like the fact that it's restarted. They like the fact that there's a ceasefire. Many people are choosing not to serve. They refuse to show up for their service. The Orthodox, that were forcibly mobilized into the army, are refusing to serve themselves, and it's a huge thing there. And now, just latest, there have been Air Force pilots that have been called up who refuse to serve.
Good.
Right, which is in general a first in Israel.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is of course, along with the continuous calls for that everything should calm down so that Netanyahu can be tried for the charges of corruption and all the various other things that he'd serve the rest of his life in prison for and rot for. That's why he doesn't want the war to end, because he knows the second it does, he's gonna end up in prison or in Miami.
Or Miami.
With his son.
Yeah.
The Gusana capital. We should just nuke
Get a big old bunny bug saw and
Exactly,
just carve off Florida.
You can't nuke
Bugs Bunny,
Miami
I'm
the same
stupid.
way you can't nuke proper Israel because it's too close to Gaza.
Yeah.
Miami is too close
It's
to Cuba. Oh my
exactly
god!
right. Oh
I'm
my
so
God.
sorry to
It's
Floridians
true.
listening
It's true.
to this.
Yeah,
I
I'm not sorry.
apologize.
Get rid of your Gusanos,
It
then we'll
is
talk.
nice, you Floridians. Come on. Oh, Jesus
They
Christ.
have lovely beaches.
Yeah, exactly right. All right, and that's kind of the round off for Palestine. The genocide continues, but the Yemeni resistance is beautiful. The Palestinian factions are continue to do their work. Israel will fall, and their attempts at genocide will falter and collapse. It's not a question of how; it's a question of when. The only question after that is, where were you and what did you do to help this process of being on the quote unquote right side of history, and making sure that the things that your government would so easily do to you if they could under the right material conditions, when it's being done somewhere else, you stand up for what's right, in the hopes and in the belief that had the same thing happen to you, other people, other nations would rise for your sake and for your rights.
And do not
Beautifully put.
forget who was on the wrong side, because they will lie. They
course.
will say they were just like what happened with apartheid South Africa. You've all heard.
But now there's the internet, so it's
you got the receipts. We've got the receipts, baby. All right, wrap it up. Bring us home.
And with that, ladies, gentlemen, and MBs, we bring today's episode to a somber but positive end. Thank you very much for joining us. We will not be doing the Patreon pitch. We will just be saying thank you so much for supporting the show. Unironically, none of this would be possible without you. Thank you for putting bread on our tables, paying our mortgages, and quite literally financially supporting the other projects that we're investing some of this money into, to be able to stay afloat until they become self-sufficient. So heart goes out to you. Thank you very much. But heart goes out to you in a normal
like a
way,
normal way.
in a very normal
Yeah.
way. And we will see you next time. And with that being said,
This has been the Deprogram. I'm JT.
Hakeem.
and I'm Yugopnik. So big sperm, small sperm doesn't matter. It's
Hey, let's go.